So today's story takes us high in the rugged Colorado Rockies. Nearly 7,500 feet above sea level, there is a hotel that looks like something out of a dream. It is elegant, white walls, red rooftops, long verandas wrapping around the face. A palace in the wilderness. But step closer and you'll feel it. The air grows heavy. The silence deepens, and the dream begins to look more like a ghost story. This is the Stanley Hotel. It was the creation of Freeland Oscar Stanley, the brilliant inventor of the Stanley steamer automobile. In 1903, Stanley's health was failing. Tuberculosis had eaten away at his lungs, and doctors gave him only months to live. Desperate, he and his wife Flora came to Estes Park, seeking a cure in the crisp mountain air. Miraculously, the clean air healed him. By the end of the summer, Stanley was stronger than he had been in years. Grateful, he decided to build the hotel in the mountains, a retreat for the wealthy, a place of beauty and rest. When the Stanley opened in 1909, it was magnificent. Electricity in every room, telephones, bathrooms, even maid service at the push of a button. It was luxury in the wilderness. Guests arrived by horse-drawn carriages, walking through tall doors into glittering lobby of polished wood and chandeliers. It was a paradise. But beneath the beauty, there was something else, something no amount of wealth or elegance could disguise. Guests began whispering about a feeling, a strange presence they could not explain. Some described it as the walls themselves were alive, listening. Others said they felt watched the moment they stepped out of the carriage, and many told of the windows. Travelers would look up as they approached and see figures staring back. A man in an old-fashioned suit, a woman in a long gown, sometimes the shadows shifting quickly across the glass. But when they checked in, they learned that the rooms they had seen were locked, empty, untouched. One diary entry from 1920 reads, "As we arrived at the hotel, I looked up to the east wing. A pale woman stood in the window, her hand pressed to the glass. But when I asked at the front desk who she was, the clerk insisted no one was staying there. I did not sleep that night." Even today, people tell the same story. Guests climbing the long hill towards the Stanley feel their stomach twist. They glance up, and in the window, just for a moment, someone is there, watching and waiting. But when they blink, the figure is gone. The Stanley Hotel has welcomed presidents, royalty, movie stars, and something else, something unseen, because this place does not only hold the living, it holds the echoes of the dead. And from the very first steps onto the grounds, you begin to realize the truth. The Stanley Hotel doesn't simply house its guests, it keeps them forever. Step through the grand front doors and you find yourself in the lobby. It is warm and welcoming. The shining wood floors, the glow of the chandeliers, the sweep of the grand staircase rising up at the center. Everything here speaks of wealth and elegance. A golden age long past. But listen closely. The lobby is never truly silent. Many guests have reported footsteps echoing across the polished floors, even when they are the only ones standing there. Shadow is flickering in the corner of their eye, but when they turn, nothing. And then there's the ghost most often seen here, Freeland Oscar Stanley himself. Dressed in a suit, his bow tie neatly fixed, he is often spotted standing at the bottom of the staircase or pausing halfway up the steps as if to admire his creation. Staff members working late at night tell of a presence that seemed to oversee them. Guests have walked by only to catch a figure in the mirror. One worker recalled, "It felt as though someone was right beside me, close enough to touch, but when I looked up, there was no one there. Yet I knew I was not alone." Some believe Stanley never left his beloved hotel. Others think he appears to welcome guests to check that all is in order. Whatever the reason, one thing is certain: the lobby remains his domain, a place where the past is never gone. And wherever Stanley is seen, Flora Stanley is never far behind. She was an accomplished pianist, and she spent countless hours at her beloved grand piano in the lobby. To this day, her music lingers. Late at night, when the building has grown quiet, guests and staff alike have reported hearing the delicate notes of piano keys drifting through the air. Sometimes it is a soft romantic tune, at other times just a single key pressed over and over again. On more than one occasion, employees have entered the room to find the keys moving on their own. No one seated at the bench, no one touching the strings. Just Flora, still playing for the love of her life. And when her music fades, it leaves behind only silence and the feeling of someone is still listening. At the center of the Stanley Hotel, the grand staircase winds upward like a spine of polished wood and carpet. When it was built in 1909, it was designed not only to impress, but to give guests a dramatic entrance into the heart of the hotel. For over a century, thousands of footsteps have echoed here, but not all of them belong to the living. Paranormal investigators call this staircase the vortex. They believe it acts as a kind of supernatural highway, a swelling portal of energy that spirits use to move in and out of the building. Guests who climb these steps describe sudden dizziness, as though the floor was shifting beneath their feet. Some report that their skin prickles with static, or that the hand stands on end as if charged by electricity. Others say the moment they step onto the first step, the feeling of being watched falls heavy on them. Dozens of unseen eyes following their every move. And then there's the photographs. Over the years, countless visitors have taken snapshots on the stairs, only to find strange anomalies when they look later. Whilst mist curling beside them, orbs of light hovering in mid-air, even faces peering out from behind the banisters, faces of people long dead. One of the most famous images was caught by a tourist who believed she was alone. The picture revealed a woman in period clothing climbing the stairs just behind her. No such woman had been there. The walls of the staircase add to the unease. Portraits of past guests and dignitaries line the halls, their painted eyes watching silently. Mirrors catch reflections that do not belong. Many claim to see shapes moving in the glass. Even when the hall is empty, paranormal experts suggest that the mirror acts as gateways, amplifying the vortex and allowing the spirits to slip in and out more easily. Several ghost hunting teams have tested the stairwell with EMF detectors and audio equipment. The results are chilling. Spikes of electromagnetic energy, disembodied voices caught on tape. One recording seemed to whisper, "We are here." The vortex is more than just a staircase. For some, it is the true heartbeat of the Stanley Hotel, a place where the veil between life and death is worn thin, where every creak in the wood, every shadow, every flicker of light could be more than just your imagination. No room at the Stanley Hotel is more famous or more feared than room 217. In 1911, a powerful gas explosion shook the room. A housekeeper named Elizabeth Wilson entered the room to light lamps. Unaware that gas has filled the space, the blast threw her into the floor below. She survived the explosion, but her spirit seems tied to the room forever. Guests who stay in 217 often report strange happenings. Their luggage is unpacked for them, clothing folded neatly, shoes lined up at the foot of the bed. Some say the sheets are tucked around them so tightly in the night they cannot move. Others speak of her disapproval. Couples who are not married often report a strange cold presence pressing between them in the bed, as if Mrs. Wilson herself is trying to keep them apart. The activity here was so intense that when Stephen King stayed in rooms 217, it left him shaken. That night became the inspiration for The Shining, and with it, room 217 became a legend. The fourth floor once housed children, nannies, and female employees. Today, these hallways are still alive with echoes from the past. Guests who walk these hallways report sounds of running footsteps in the night, the giggles of children playing hide and seek, a ball bouncing across the floor, doors creak open and close without explanation. And sometimes there are sightings of two little girls standing hand in hand at the end of the hallway, their faces pale, their eyes fixed, watching and waiting. Some visitors only glimpse them for a moment. Others say the twins remain until the light flicker, and then they are gone. Long before this beautiful hotel was built by Stanley, this land belonged to Lord Dunraven. He never lived here, but his reputation for scandal and greed was infamous. His ghostly presence has been tied to the hotel ever since. Guests have reported waking in the dead of night to find a shadowy cowboy figure standing at the foot of their bed. Tall, broad, and his hat pulled low, watching silently. Those who encounter him describe the air growing heavy, the bed sinking as if someone unseen has leaned upon it. The presence builds until they can no longer breathe, and then, suddenly, he vanishes. Some believe Dunraven never let go of the land he once controlled, and even in death he still lingers. Room 418 is considered by staff and long-time visitors to be the most active room in the entire Stanley Hotel. For decades, guests have reported the same phenomena: the sound of children laughing, running and bouncing a ball down the hallway. The noises often happen late at night when no children are checked in nearby. Guests have also described the feeling of the mattress dipping, as if though a small child had sat down at the edge of the bed, but the room was empty. Hotel staff confirmed that room 418 received the most complaints of noisy children than any other room, even on nights when no families are checked into that wing. Some believe the spirits are of the children of the guests who lived there long ago, perhaps still playing in the corridors they once knew. Some visitors say they've heard scratching noises at the door, deep and slow, unlike those of light footsteps of children. A few paranormal investigators believe something else may be at work here, a presence imitating the sound of children to lure people closer. No one knows for sure what haunts room 418. Are they playful spirits of children who never left? Or is it something older, something darker, using their voices as a disguise. When you stay in room 418, you may hear giggles, you may feel a small hand tug at your blanket, but you may also hear that slow, deliberate scratching at the door, and you'll have to decide for yourself, what is it that is really truly there? If there's one room in the Stanley Hotel that unsettles guests the most, it's room 428. Visitors who stay here often report being woken in the night by the feeling of someone with them in the room. Some describe footsteps pacing back and forth on the wooden floorboards. Even though the lights reveal no one is there, others claim to hear furniture moving as if a chair is being dragged across the floor, though when they check, nothing has shifted an inch. But the most famous presence is the cowboy. Guests tell of waking suddenly in early hours, only to see a tall, shadowy figure standing at the foot of the bed. Sometimes he simply watches. He is outlined dark against the dim light of the room. Other time he is seen leaning closer, as though studying the sleeping guest. One woman reported that she woke to feel a presence against her forehead. When she opened her eyes, she saw a figure of a man in old Western clothing leaning over her, kissing her gently on the brow. In an instant, he was gone. The legend of the cowboy remains a mystery. Some believe he may be the ghost of Lord Dunraven, the Irish earl who owned the land here before the Stanley was built. Others think he is the spirit of a wandering traveller who died nearby, a restless soul who still roams the halls at nights. Whatever his origin, guests describe him as both protective and terrifying, a guardian who does not sleep. But the cowboy is not the only presence tied to room 428. Some visitors say they hear strange knocking on the walls and ceilings. Others report cold spots in the corners of the room, where the temperature drops suddenly as though someone unseen is standing just out of sight. For some, the cowboy presence feels gentle and even comforting. For others, it's the most unnerving night of their lives. Room 428 remains one of the Stanley's most whispered about locations. When the light goes out, you may wake to find yourself no longer alone, with the shadow of a cowboy watching over you. The concert hall is one of the most active parts of the hotel. It was built as a gift for Flora Stanley by her husband, and it has become a home to a chorus of spirits. The first presence is Paul. He was a former maintenance man. He is still heard giving orders from beyond the grave. Guests lingering for a little too long late at night have heard his voice booming, "Get out." The words echo through the empty hall, leaving chills in their wake. The next one is Lucy, a young woman who once sought shelter in the building when she had nowhere else to go. Paranormal investigators often hear her through spirit boxes, her voice clear and intelligent, responding to their questions. Lucy is believed to be a homeless girl who somewhere froze to death, and her spirit still lingering in the concert hall where she used to hide away from the cold. And then finally there's Eddie, known for his mischief. Eddie is a prankster. Guests say he pulls hair, tugs on shirts, and even tickles them without warning. His laughter is sometimes heard echoing off the stage. Together they make sure the concert hall is never silent. Deep inside the Stanley Hotel is an object known as the Demon Mirror. Originally displayed in the concert hall, this mirror has long been associated with disturbing encounters. Guests who stare too long into the glass often claim to see faces that aren't their own. Pale eyes blinking back, twisted smiles forming just behind their reflection. Some say they feel pulled towards it, as if something inside is watching, waiting for them to look away. Paranormal investigators warn that mirrors can act as portals, and if any mirror holds a gateway at the Stanley Hotel, it's this one. But the true heart of the darkness may lie beneath the hotel itself. Few visitors know that hidden under the grand structure is a network of underground tunnels. These passages were built to allow staff to move unseen, carrying luggage, supplies and coal without disturbing the wealthy guests upstairs. The walls are rough stone, the ceilings low, and the air is cool and damp. Over time, stories began to surface. Workers moving through the tunnels late at night heard footsteps behind them, though no one else was scheduled to be below. Someone described the sound of shovels scraping against the earth, as if unseen laborers still toiled there long after death. Others claimed to see shadows slipping around the corners, moving faster than human eyes can see. But darker stories persist. Some believe the tunnels connect to the same swirling energy of the vortex above, amplifying the presence of spirits and something else. Paranormal teams have recorded growls, cold gusts of air, and shadows stretching across the stone walls when no one else was in sight. The Stanley Hotel is not just a historic landmark, it's a place where past and present collide, where music still drifts from empty rooms, where shadows watch from windows, where laughter, love and terror are trapped forever. Visitors come for beauty, they stay for the history, but some leave with something more, an experience that follows them home. Because here in the Stanley Hotel, the guests never truly leave.